Paul Finebaum and the SEC are coming out here and basically telling you, like, they're gerrymandering the college football playoff selection process, trying their damnedest to do it, and now they're backing that up with some threats here, which to me, it just shows the act of an increasingly desperate conference that really sees the landscape shifting. Like, they can sense how this is getting away from them a bit and how it's not the SEC's world and everybody is living in it anymore. Not nearly like it used to be. Okay. So this was making the rounds early in the week last week, and I didn't get to it because of my schedule, but I could not let this pass, man. Paul Finebaum is on a show on ESPN's airwaves talking about the SEC dropping they did the list of the 3 teams, the permanent rivals that each school will be playing. So there was a reveal for that. Football, they're just calling it a football opponents reveal from 2026 to 2029, right? There was a lot of stuff that was kind of funny with this, like Texas A&M Mike Elko was sort of needling Missouri a little bit. And I know people, it seemed like it was more like, we're not like geographically connected. Why is this? It's like, buddy, you guys used to be in the same conference. Okay. There's a reason that you're playing each other. You do have some history there. And if it's like a looking down on Missouri thing, Missouri's actually been a much better program in the SEC since A&M joined. I digress. All that's going on, and Paul Finebaum felt the need to make this statement about, I mean, you be the judge. It's, in essence, a threat to the College Football Playoff Selection Committee to put more SEC teams in.
This is supposed to be a night to celebrate where the SEC is, but I'm getting angry listening to this conversation because, Greg, we're all dumbfounded by what we heard last year, and we have laid a marker from the SEC at the feet of the CFP, and they better deliver. And I'm not making threats because I don't have any more control over it than anybody else, but I know some people who do. And if they screw this up, they will be paying for it. And I don't know how or will, but they should, because this is unequivocal what the SEC has laid down tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're keeping track at home, what Paul Finebaum just said there is, I'm not making any threats, but I know the people that can make threats, and they should make threats because this is ridiculous. And all that being the conversation about the SEC, I guess, deserving more than 3 teams in last year when the SEC went 2-3 in the playoff. They had a losing record. They did not win a national championship. They did not play for a national championship. What evidence is there other than, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, SEC dominance? I mean, that's the only argument there is, failing to recognize how much the landscape has shifted and the landscape has changed. And that's the thing that's nuts about this, is nobody in the SEC can get that through their thick head, or they don't want to believe that. And that's why, to me, this just feels like desperate acts, like grasping at straws, like, oh, we need to change the metrics that are used for strength of schedule. We need to, it literally is like, as much as you can gerrymander a selection process in college football, that is what they are doing. They're resorting to just like dirty politics here to try and get this done, and then sending their biggest mouthpiece out on ESPN airwaves to like drop threats and be like, hey, you guys better do this. And I guess I've gone this long without addressing, well, like, what would the ultimate threat be? I mean, the ultimate threat would be leave and do their own thing. Instead of a playoff where everybody has access, it would just be like the SEC Big Ten Invitational, which to me, that's like the nuclear option, because it would eventually nuke everything for everybody. It's short-sighted for the SEC and Big Ten. They may think, hey, it'll be great right now. We'll make a bunch of money right now. Yeah, you will, but you're going to cut out so much of the country. It's going to become so much more professionalized and lose all of the things that make everybody love college football, that there will be diminishing returns. The product will get worse. And then obviously the product gets worse for everybody else involved that's getting cut out of it. It'll just ruin it for everybody. So it's like, yeah, here's the threat we've got. We have nukes. Okay, well, if you use those, other people are going to use them, and then the whole world's gone. So what's the move here? Like, that's the nuclear option, but it's a very silly, short-sighted version of it for the SEC. And so I have to roll my eyes really, I guess at this point, it's more than rolling my eyes. You got to just be like, you guys need to be stopped, man. You need to be stopped before you do press the big red nuclear button. You know, I mean, look at like this week, Bama. There are just the problem. They can't wrap their mind around. There are not these dominant SEC teams anymore. I think the depth in the league is great, and I would not sit here and tell you the SEC is a bad league. I think the SEC top to bottom is still the best league in college football, but it's not by a mile. And that's in large part because they don't have dominant forces at the top. Like Bama and Georgia are not that anymore. The Bama team that just won between the hedges at Georgia lost to Florida State, who just lost to Virginia, right? And I know you can say, well, you can't play this comparative score game, but we have enough data here last year, this year, to just suggest like it has changed. And the year before when Michigan won the national championship, like it has changed. The SEC hasn't even played for a national championship in a couple of years. It's not the same anymore. And you can whine and cry about it as much as you want. It's not going to change it. You can try to gerrymander whatever you want to here. You can try and throw whatever veiled threats or not even veiled threats out there through your mouthpiece, Paul Finebaum, as much as you want, but it's not going to change what the reality of the situation is right now. The SEC's, it's going to beat up on each other. I feel like we're headed for a very similar type of situation. They're all going to just beat up on each other, and you're going to have a bunch of teams with 2 and 3 losses there at the end of the year, jockeying for position, and the SEC is going to want this preferential treatment based on what happened when Tim Tebow was still wearing a Florida uniform, and they built their whole propaganda apparatus through ESPN. But it's not that world that we're living in anymore. And it will be very interesting to see if there's a different move by, if the selection committee, basically if the committee gives into the pressure like that, if they change how they're doing this because of what Paul Finebaum is saying. And I don't even know if that would be based on they think they're going to take their ball and go home and do their own thing, or it's just like what naturally happens when you keep hearing this and someone's putting pressure and someone's in your ear. You know, does human nature take over a little bit there? It will be interesting. Like from that standpoint, I guess you say you can understand why the SEC is trying here, but I sure hope that enough people call this out. There were some. Shout out to Danny Cannell, who was the one that I saw doing it. I mean, some people are definitely calling it out, but we need some more because this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Okay. I think that's going to about wrap this up. Boy, some wild stuff going on in the comments tonight, guys. Wild stuff there. Zach with a hot take. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel on your way out the door here. John-Gertz-4, if you want to hit me up on Venmo, if you have a question or comment there. That is the way to leave one if you want me to kick off the next show with it. So if you're not able to catch this live, that's a way to get in touch. Subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com. That's ofbnews.com.